Hello again, friends. Today I'm going to cover my top 10 favorite Cardfight Vanguard cards. To preface, this is only going to cover the original and the V series of cards. The reason being that I don't feel like Cardfight Zero is the same card game, and I kind of feel the same way about Standard, to be honest. So I'm kind of keeping those separated out. So the criterion that I'm using for this particular evaluation is how good do I feel when I play the card. If I wanted to go just by art, obviously I'd have to put Adelaide on here. I don't have a vanilla heal trigger on here because I don't feel like a vanilla heal trigger is that great to play, and I don't get that like high of a feeling when I play that card. So that's kind of not where I'm going with this. So this is not about card art. It's only about how good do I feel when I play the card. So to start off with, at number 10, we have Elite Mutant Giraffa. Giraffa is one of my favorite grade 2s in the game. And one of the reasons why I like this card so much is because it allows me to do multiple different things. So one, if I'm up against, say, MLB, and if I go first, and if they boost their grade 1 Vanguard in order to hit over my 8k Giraffa, then the next turn when I ride this card, if I attack and I hit, I can stun Wingle Brave. And that's incredibly useful because the next turn is the turn they'd be riding into grade 2. And a lot of the decks at that time period were running skewed ratios, so that way Wingle Brave would be guaranteed to fish out their grade 3 MLB, and they can't really deal very well with with Wingle Brave getting stunned. So I do think that that's very, very cool, and I like that facet of Giraffa. Just getting any stun at all is fun. But the part that makes this card so much more my favorite is that when you actually build a deck around this card, because of how the set 4 ride chains work, each grade 1 counts as the grade 2. And that means that you can run 4 fewer grade 2 units and then run 4 extra cards. And the way that I made this work, one of the best ways I've made this work, is by having Nubatama grade 3, so Daida Rahoshi and Voidmaster, which both don't have Lord, and then having those be my primary vanguards while using Hagakure in order to, once my opponent goes in, and once they are starting to run out of resources or high on damage, I will just hand dump all of my Hagakure all at the same time, counterblast 1 for each, force them to discard that many cards, and then the final turn attack and try and finish them off. This actually works a lot better with the Mega Colony mixed version, because then you can run 12 criticals when back when these cards were released you only had 4 Nubatama criticals. So this actually allows you to supplement the weaknesses of the deck and make it feel like a more fleshed out and completed deck. So moving on, number 9, please don't gasp, is Star Drive Dragon, and this is going to include Madhu and Gigantic Charger. My favorite part of this deck is not even just this combination, although this combination is very fun to play. The absolute most fun I've ever had playing this deck was in the regional tournament that I got top 16 with when I played against a Dragonic Overlord, the cross player. I believe my blog said that I had 7 of my rear guards retired that game, and I every single turn had a completely full board. So nothing that he did was able to keep me from fielding units because Gigantic Charger was just spamming my field so much, and he was not able to stop the wrath of the Cosmo Dragon. So I do enjoy Star Drive Dragon very much, but I have another card from that deck that I'm keeping separate for a different reason. Moving on to number 8, we have True Demonic Rifle Rogue Gunnincolio. Gunnincolio is very fun to play. He is effectively a mini stride whenever you ride him, because when you get to attack with him, you get triple drive, and if you luck sack, then you can even get quadruple drive. And then I love so much playing this deck that it's really fun. If I had gone back in time when I made my original review for this set, I said when this card came out it was a 9 out of 10, but that Stag Beetle was the 10 out of 10. And mixing this and Stag Beetle was obviously the best version of the deck, but this card was way better than I gave it credit for. It's probably a 10.5 out of 10. I just love this card so much. And since it was the most recent set, I just steamrolled through all of Cardfight Vanguard X with this card as my primary Vanguard. It is very strong, and I feel really, really good when I play this card. But it's not the only card from that deck that I like, and I'm going to move on later on and tell you what that one is. So, to go back to what I was saying before about Star Drive, my favorite card in the Star Drive deck might surprise you, but it's actually Light Elemental Peaker. Light Elemental Peaker, and I have up this version of it for a reason I'll show you in a second, basically just said, when I was playing it, when your opponent attacks your Vanguard, Choose one of your Vanguards, and if its power is 10,000 or less, it gets plus 1,000 power until the end of battle. Obviously, this doesn't do anything if you hit a defensive trigger, because then your power will be higher than 10,000. But until then, this card can make Star Drive 11k defense, and that's cute. But my favorite thing is when I ride Gigantic Charger, and then I have 2 of these out, and then my Gigantic Charger becomes 11,000 base power. That is hilarious, and that is my favorite thing with the Star Drive Dragon Madu deck, is just when they attack in and they're like, wait, what? How does that math? And I just love it so much. Apparently, this card got massively buffed to not only not being able to be retired by your opponent's card effects, or targeted at all, but also it applies to base power 11,000 or lower, and also gives plus 2,000 power, so it's way stronger now than it was when I last used it. But the one that holds a solid place in my heart is the original version, because I was actually using that at the time. Moving on, we have Great Sage Baron at number 6. This is going to include all cards that have the same effect, so Psychicker of Dust, Isaiah, Doreen the Thruster, Young Pegasus Knight, Great Sage Baron, among all of the others. Whenever you soul charge during your main phase, plus 3,000 power until end of turn. I love cards that play just like this. They make me feel super happy when I play them. So not only did this work with Barkle, where you would get 12,000 power from having 4 units enter soul, this also worked with the various Amon style decks, and it also worked with, in the most stupid way possible, my Regalia Seeker mix deck when Legion first came out. So I had a Thing Saver Vanguard, and then I played Regalia, what was it, Prayer Angel, the starter, which was move to soul, soul charge 3, give your Vanguard 5,000 power. Like, holy crap. So not only does that make Thing Saver automatically have 6 soul, so that you can use Thing Saver's effect twice, but that also gives bonus power to all of your Barons, all of your Young Pegasus Knights, and all of your Psychicker of Dust Isaiahs, and I ran max copies of all of those. And then the deck was also 16 crit for good measure, and then you got 6 drive checks among 3 attacks, with all of those criticals being spread over to your enormous rearguard rows. That was a very potent, very lethal mix deck, and the moment that they released the Legion support, I knew it was all over for mixed decks. I knew they were getting banned because it was so dumb. And for some stupid reason, while they were still legal, people were playing Blaster Revenge, or what is it, Revenger, Drag Ruler Abyss, or Blaster, Phantom Blaster Abyss. They were playing that deck, the Abyss Legion, and they were playing that with Royal Paladin, Thing Saver as a mix, and I'm like, wow, if only you guys actually knew what the real raw potential of mixing was. And if you were playing the Thing Saver Regalia version, you would have done way better. So moving on, we have number 5. Now, I separated out Amon because Amon has its own archetype, and that archetype has its own level of support. And technically, yes, I am still using Doreen the Thruster in order to get that bonus power in the same way that I would have been using Doreen in the previous incarnation. But the Amon support specifically, all added together, I have an immense amount of joy playing. I do think that I do like Amon more than I like Paladin of Soul, but Paladin of Soul was what I was always trying to get out of Amon anyway, but because Amon never had that grade 2 Doreen, it made it so much worse. If Dark Irregulars had that grade 2 Doreen from the beginning, like I think they should have, then I would have been just 100% on the Dark Irregulars hype train, and I would have never even worried about Royal Paladin ever again. But, I mean, we got what we got. But either way, obviously I love Amon. Amon to this day is still my waifu. Moving on, for number 4, CEO Amaterasu. There's one thing that I like in Cardfight Vanguard, and that's hitting triggers. This card gives you a 70% chance to hit a trigger. When I play CEO, it is always and forever, and will always and forever be 16 critical triggers. That means I have a 70% chance whenever Amaterasu attacks his Vanguard to hit a critical trigger. That is nuts. And I like playing Vanguard that way. It makes me feel real good. So obviously this card's going to be up there. Obviously this was my chief Vanguard when I was playing Tom and Jerry, and Tom and Jerry as a deck made me feel really good. Not so much about the Tom cheese, although, I mean, it was a little bit fun, but the thing that I liked was just all of the guaranteed cycling, scrying, hitting critical triggers. That facet of it was my favorite part. Moving on, we have number 3, Embodiment of Victory Aleph. You might be thinking, wow, Aleph is really high on this list. Yes, he is. I love playing Aleph so much you don't even know. So there are 2 main Aleph decks that I really like to play. The first one was Bison Aleph. Bison Aleph was a set 9 mix deck where I would use Aleph as a rear guard and then have it boosted by a soft tank sloth. Bison would give that soft tank sloth plus 4,000 power, and then it would get the effect at the end of turn. When it gets retired, I countercharge 2. Soft tank sloth's effect is when it gets retired at the end of turn, Soul Blast 1, countercharge 2. Now, if you've kept up with all of the math here, that is a 23k 2 crit rearguard row because we used Aleph's effect to counterblast 4 and give it 3,000 power and a bonus crit. So 23k 2 crit, you attack with Bison, and then you hit a stand trigger, and then Aleph is going to stand with that bonus power, swing him again, and then at the end of turn, you unflip 4, and you can do it again next turn. I love that deck a lot, but that's not my favorite way to play Aleph. My favorite way to play Aleph is when I start the card fight, and I flip over my starter, it is Embodiment of Spear Tar, the vanilla critical trigger. And then my opponent's like, what is he doing? And then the next turn I ride Bar, and they're like, what is he doing? And then the next turn I ride Grade 2 Aleph, and they're like, okay, but what is he doing? And then I ride Dauntless Drive Dragon, and they're like, what is going on? And then the limit break happens. I ride Aleph, I counterblast 4. My Aleph is now 23k 2 crit. I Soul Blast out Tar, Bar, and Aleph. And then I unflip all of my damage. I counterblast it all again. 26k, 3 critical, restanding Vanguard. That is so fun. And it's just inconsistent and wonky enough that I love it. Every time I get it, I'm like, oh, like if I got it every game, it wouldn't be as fun. But because it's so inconsistent, when I get it, I'm just like, oh, it's so fun. I love it so much. And that is why Aleph is number 3. Number 2, we're bringing back the colon. Water Gang, V specifically. V Water Gang is when it stands, counterblast 1, move it to soul, draw 2 cards. Oh. So this card obviously is a part of a combo piece with both Hell Demise, which is stand one of your rear guards when it enters the rear guard circle, and Machining Stag Beetle. And you can even call out both of them in tandem because Machining Stag Beetle calls out 2 cards at rest, also works as a rear guard. So Water Gang with Spark Hercules, Water Gang with Hell Demise has the ability to stand up during my main phase, counterblast 1, move to soul, draw 2. Or I can put him behind my Vanguard where he's generally speaking going to be untouched. And then if I ride Stag, I get that imaginary gift protect. Water Gang goes behind him. And then Stag Beetle is still going to be swinging for a bunch. Start of my next turn, counterblast 1, move him to soul, draw 2 cards. The versatility and the hand advantage that you get with this combo deck is incredible. And V Mega Colony, I think V Mega Colony may just be my favorite deck. It's hard for me to tell. Now, it's my second favorite. But it is still one of my favorite decks of all time, V Mega Colony, especially the first set and the second set. Oh man, I love it so much. And that's one of the reasons why I still hop on Cardfight Vanguard EX and play Mega Colony, even to this day. It is so fun for me. And it makes me feel very happy when I play that deck. So now we're going to move on to some honorable mentions. What? Why is Panzer Gale here? Well, the reason why Panzer Gale is here is because there was a particular way in set 10 Vanguard that I built Spike Brothers that nobody else really did, and I called it Stable Spikes. Stable Spikes used the card advantage generation that you got from the mid battle phase calls for Spike Brothers to just keep the cards on the board. It did not send the units back to deck. There was no Dragger, there was no Bracky, there was no Juggernaut Maximum. I kept my board presence very consistent. I did not send my units back to deck, and then I just built strong rows, and then I used the fact that I could search my deck for other Spike Brothers cards and kept my rows very, very stable. And then I also ran stand triggers for bigger units like Rabbit House that could attack for a lot, or what was it? Not Spike Bouncer, but they had a limit break grade 2 attacker where if you had a limit break Vanguard, he swung for 11k. I ran that one. So Rabbit House was my backup, grade 3. So it also had an effect on Vanguard. And then Graceful Catapult was the primary Vanguard. His effect was Limit Break, Counterblast 1 or 2, and then Persona Blast. And then you got to search your deck for any 2 cards, call them to Rearguard Circle. And then the cards that I ended up calling an awful lot were Wonder Boy and Panzer Gale to make 16k, or just 2 front row units after already intercepting with another one. And then people just don't expect Spike Brothers to have that much defense, because you have this gigantic interceptor on the board that was also able to actually hit numbers, and you weren't just sending it back to deck. So that was able to win quite a few games. Unfortunately, the deck manifested in the Eradicator's meta, and Eradicators were fairly cheap to get at least the starter decks from. So I ended up having Panzer Gale get electrocuted a bunch. But when I wasn't up against Erads, that deck was super fun to play. Next up for an honorable mention, we have Lark Pigeon. I enjoy playing that Lark Pigeon deck. I can't even express how much I like Lark Pigeon. It's so fun. And when Lark Pigeon does come out, you just feel great, especially if you're up against a Transcore Dragon Break Ride. So they play Transcore, they ride over it, and then it's like you have to discard a card out of your hand. If you don't, this has bonus critical. And I'm just like, no, I'm good. And then just Lark Pigeons. I've only managed to do that one time, and I had to hand dump before the Vanguard attack to do it, which was stupid. But I did it, and that's what matters. And I felt really good about doing it. Next up, we have Platinum Ace as an honorable mention. He gets a bonus critical when his attack is 13,000 or greater before he attacks. So this is pretty strong. In conjunction with Laurel, I was able to make a very strong rush deck. I have more turn 2 kills with this deck than any other deck other than Ripples. And that is a testament to just how strong Platinum Ace is as a card. Obviously, I get a lot of enjoyment out of playing this card. Next up is Water General of Wave-like Spirals, Benedict. You might be thinking, why is Benedict here and not Tidal Assault? There's a good reason for that. Tidal Assault is a little bit too strong for me to feel that great about winning with it, and I won with Tidal Assault all the time, so it just lost its WoW value. But back when I was originally playing my original iteration of this deck, I would have Benedict as a rearguard, and then play the promo card Battle Siren Neferli, which is give a grade 3 plus 3,000 power until end of turn if it's an Aqua Force. And then that would make this 13k, restand at 8, and then I'd also be running accelerated commands. So let's just say that I played both of those. He's 15. Attack with my Vanguard, hit a critical trigger. Now all of a sudden it's 20k. Attack 20k unboosted. Stand him at 15. Boost him with the 6k booster. Now it's 21k. So that's 20k 2 crit, 21k 2 crit as a rear guard. And that kind of gives a similar feeling to the way that I was playing Aleph. So obviously this card and Aleph kind of fill the same niche, but you can't do the break ride shenanigans. So obviously Aleph is higher on my list than Benedict is. And then the final honorable mention, I just really like hitting critical triggers. Obviously there's a reason why I play 16 critical triggers so many times, and 12 crits is what I normally have if I'm not running 16. This is also one of the reasons why I don't like standard that much. I need crits in my life. Hitting critical triggers just makes me feel a certain way. So now we're going to go to the very, very number one card, my favorite card of all time, the one that makes me feel the absolute best to play, the one that destroyed the timeline, the one that made everyone forget about Aichi, the one that has caused all of the chaos on Cray. That's right. It is the number one lore bomb, Sage of Guidance Xenon. Xenon has the effect, when he gets called, mill the top card of your deck. If it is the same grade as your Vanguard, superior write it. This card has so much fun potential, and I'm going to include both the original and the V-Series version. We'll cover the V-Series version first. So for the V-Series version, I ran skewed ratios as much as I was allowed to, and the deck was garbage because we didn't have anything like set 4 ride chains or Barkle to skew our ratio successfully with. But when I got it off, I got it off. So I just ran 8 grade 1s and 9 grade 2s and just said, screw it, we ballin'. And I would try my hardest not to ride Xenon and ride Pongal instead. And when I finally got the ultimate replay for it, I had played the deck a total of 1 time. And that's the only time I ever played the deck. So I guess that's not technically true. I played it a couple of times on X for fun. But the only time that I ever really played this gigantic, hugely skewed grade 3 deck, I played it and I uploaded that replay, and it was called Royal Paladin Tier SS++. And it's actually uploaded to my YouTube channel, and that replay is insane. So I ride to grade 3, and then I play a Xenon. I mill a grade 3, superior ride. Play Xenon again, mill another grade 3 and superior ride, and then I have 3 force 1s while my opponent is sitting on grade 2. And he just lets all of the attacks hit because he's like, I'm done with this game. We're so done right now. And then I also had all 4 of my null guards in my hand. It was stupid. It was one of the dumbest replays I've ever had in my life. But yeah, so that's one way. But the original Xenon is above and beyond my absolute favorite, especially the SP artwork. Let's get that up here. Yeah, I still have a playset of this because they're like $2 each. So there's two different decks that I played the original Xenon in. The first one was a 17 grade 3 Royal Paladin deck. The premise of that deck was that I would use Barkle, even though it was banned, but I would still play it in casuals. I would use Barkle so that I could only run 2 grade 2s, both of them Blaster Blades. And then I would have 17 grade 3s just from those skewed ratios. And I would run Pendragon. Pendragon is limit break, check the top 5 cards of your deck for a grade 3, superior ride it. I'd run Exculpate as a potential finisher. But then the key cards were Xenon and Gornamont. Gornamont is a grade 3 that came out in set 10 that says whenever a grade 3 enters your Vanguard circle, he gets 10,000 power until end of turn. So if I had Gornamont out already, and I was at limit break, I would ride Pendragon, check top 5, get another grade 3 out, and then start playing Xenons. If any of those are grade 3s, superior ride. And then Gornamont has gotten up to 50k power before, I believe, in a single turn. And that's stupid. And you swing Vanguard, and then all of a sudden they have to block everything because your side rows are enormous. And yeah, that deck was fun. But that wasn't the most fun that I've had with Xenon. So the most fun that I've had with Xenon was at the 2017 regionals. Now, you might not hear a whole lot about me because I don't think I did a 2017 regional report because I was judging that year. So I was judging just Buddy Fight, so I went to the Vanguard tournament just to have a little bit of fun, and I brought a troll deck. Now, the last time I brought a troll deck to a regional event, I topped. So, well, I mean, I got top 16. So let that be a lesson to me not to bring troll decks because apparently I do really well with them. But the premise of this deck was that I would stride, and then I would attack with my Vanguard, and then I would attack with my rear guard, and then I would attack with Knight of Twin Sword. Knight of Twin Sword's effect procs, Counterblast 1, search my deck for Benon, Counterblast 1, search my deck for Xenon. Xenon's effect, mill the top card of my deck if it's the same grade as my Vanguard superior ride. Now you might be wondering, well, your Vanguard's grade 4, so what card would fit? And the answer is Arcsaver Dragon. So I only had 4 Arcsavers in that deck, and hitting it at all would be basically very unlikely, like 8% chance. So I kept trying and trying and trying to get the combo. I didn't get it a single time that day, but I still just kept winning all of my games from having a solid Royal Paladin pile. And I ended up getting to round 4 undefeated. And then my opponent finally did beat me. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to drop, and you're going to have the best tiebreakers in history. But I remember Robbie Cole looking at me incredulously like, how is he still here? I saw his deck. It's not good. How is he still here? And to be frank, I don't know either. But that is the most fun I've ever conceived of Vanguard, is hitting that full wombo combo. 8% chance to do it. I played the deck about 50 times. I've only gotten it off once. I had the replay on Cardfight Area, and then it got corrupted. So I have never uploaded a video of me doing that wombo combo. If it comes out on the Deer Days 2, and if it's possible to do, I'm going to try and do that. Even if I have to run Constance, which can also do the same thing. So Constance is when he hits Counterblast 2, search your deck for, I think, a grade 1 Royal Paladin superior, call it. So I'm just going to use Constance into Xenon and then see if I can mill a grade 4. If strides aren't out yet, I'll play that in my 17 grade 3 deck, and then just, well, actually, how would I do that with my riding ratios? I'll figure that out later. That's tomorrow me's problem. But Constance into Xenon, mill probably a grade 3, superior ride the grade 3, mid battle phase so that I get the extra drive checks. That's the whole premise of Xenon. I love Xenon so much for doing exactly that. It is one of the most fun things I can conceive of. Constance has to hit, so he's not as fun as Twin Sword. Twin Sword, they don't really get a whole lot of interaction with. So, yeah. So Knight of Twin Sword, Benon, Xenon, superior ride, Arcsaver. That is absolute cinema. And that is my favorite Vanguard deck, my favorite Vanguard combo, I have to say. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one.